Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged. I've just finished the Children of Time series by Adrian Tchaikovsky and I want to have a little chat about it. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, the Children of Time series by Mr. Adrian Tchaikovsky. I finished this a couple of nights ago, finished up Children of Memory, which is the third in the trilogy, or at least the third in the series so far. I can only hope that he might return to this series at some stage. But yeah, I want to talk about this while it's still fresh in my mind. So forgive me if this video might be a little bit rambly, because I'm still processing some of it. I will try and avoid spoilers, particularly for books 2 and 3. I will talk a little bit more about book 1, Children of Time, just to kind of set the scene, if you like, of what the setting is, all that kind of stuff, sort of the main sort of themes, etc., that run through the series. But yeah, I will try and stay away from any spoilers for books 2 and 3 particularly. But if you haven't read any of them and you want to go in totally blind, then do feel free to click away from the video and come back when you've read at least the first one. So I had all of these on audiobook, which I think is a great way to experience them actually. The audio narration is fantastic. Mel Hudson is the narrator for all 3, and she does a fantastic job. She's extremely clear. She gives the characters, really good performances of the characters, not over the top at all, but really sort of distinguishes them and brings them to life and stuff like that. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this as audio if you're into audio. Another thing to note as well, I would say, is I read these in reasonably quick succession. I read the first 2, or listened to the first 2 in July, back to back. I finished Children of Time and immediately went on to Children of Ruin. And then I had a month's break, and then I come back to Children of Memory this month, September. I would recommend doing something similar, as in not leaving too much time between each book, particularly when it comes to between books 2 and 3. I think they do benefit from being read in a reasonably timely manner, if you like. So yeah, that's just another note really from me. Right, Children of Time then, just to set the scene, a bit of a background. It's set in the far future, or at least it starts in the far future, where a spaceship of scientists who are part of a terraforming project are about to try and seed a newly terraformed planet with some monkeys and also a bioengineered virus designed to accelerate the evolution of these monkeys into, I guess, some sort of human type being. But before they can successfully complete that task, their ship's destroyed. The lead scientist, Verana Kern, manages to get off the ship in an escape pod. She does manage to release the monkeys and the virus, but the monkeys don't survive the entry through the planet's atmosphere. But the virus, however, does. And it works that evolutionary magic on whatever creatures already exist on this terraformed planet. And those creatures are spiders. So if you're an arachnophobe, this might not be the book for you. So the majority, one half of the book, or the majority, I think probably you would say, of the first book, Children of Time, is looking at the evolution of these spiders from kind of normal sort of spiders, like you'd expect maybe to find in your house or something like that, through to an extremely advanced civilization. This is taking place over eons. And that side of it is what really makes this book. That side of it is absolutely brilliant. The way that Tchaikovsky presents it, the way the thought experiment elements of it, the society that they build and how they build it. You know, you get the kind of key points, the kind of the progress they make, and then the sort of stalling points, all that kind of stuff. And you get to know some of the characters, even though we are seeing several different spiders across the ages. Tchaikovsky uses the same names throughout to kind of enable you to relate to these characters, really. And there's always a Portia, there's pretty much always a Bianca, there's a Fabian. And yeah, you can definitely connect with them more because of that. On the other side of things, as we go through the evolution over eons with the spiders, we're also looking at some humans. And these are humans that have evacuated from a dying Earth, basically, in ark ships. You know, they're setting out to explore deep space, to look for new planets that they can call home. They are kind of colony ships, essentially. And we follow their journey through time as well, as they kind of keep, you know, parts of the key crews are woken up to deal with issues and then go back to sleep again for years and years and years. And, you know, we're looking at what happens really when they find this beautiful, pristine, verdant planet, terraformed planet of Kern's world as it's referred to. And it's perfect for, you know, for the humans to settle, except for the fact that it's already occupied by giant spiders. So we're kind of looking at, you know, sort of the evolution of the spiders, and at the same time, kind of the regression, the de-evolution, if you like, of humans, because things have changed. Things are not good for the humans. And it kind of, you know, it plays with, you're starting to see sort of the themes come through that run throughout the series. So evolution is definitely one. Fear of the other and the unknown is another. You know, humans, well, we all know that, you know, spiders aren't necessarily, you know, on average, our favourite things. I love them, but I know a lot of people who don't. My wife can't stand them. She's terrified of them. And so, yeah, giant spiders that, you know, can organise, that have a society, that are pretty advanced, both in terms of technology and culture, religion, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, probably pretty terrifying. So, you know, you've got that kind of conflict there. You've got a lot of other stuff going on as well. You've got bits about AI, you know, you've got survival elements, all that kind of stuff. This is all setting up the sort of themes that Tchaikovsky plays with throughout the series. So that's kind of your basic of Children of Time. Children of Time, in my opinion, is far and away the best book in the series. I'll say now, I love this entire series. I think this entire series is phenomenal. But Children of Time is something special, I think. And it's the spiders and the story of their evolution that really is what really makes it. So then, after that, we go on to Children of Ruin. And it's kind of like Children of Ruin and Children of Memory, to a point, are kind of same but different. We've got the same sort of themes coming in that I've already talked about, you know, evolution, human conflict, humans playing gods, even, you know, that kind of thing, some AI, that kind of thing, advance of technology, fear of the other. But he kind of presents it in different ways in each book. There's a different kind of example, or he builds on all of these things in each book. So Children of Ruin, yes, we still visit the spiders again, but we've got another evolving species coming in as well, which are octopuses, cephalopods, however you want to call them. So we've got something completely different, and again, an evolution, which means that because of the difference in their species, in their physiology, and, you know, just generally how they work, their evolution is very different, and how they communicate is very different. And so you've got communication being a real important factor in the second book. You've also got something else, some other species coming in, which I will not spoil, which is which I loved. And this is where you get another addition into the series as well. The first book is very much science fiction, whereas Children of Ruin, you are getting a creeping in of horror with this something else that comes into it. And I loved that about Children of Ruin. That horror element that came in is really quite creepy, and it gets quite tense. It's quite suspenseful. It can be a little bit. Certain parts of it was really sort of slightly stressful listening because you wonder what was going to happen. And I really like that. You're building in, Tchaikovsky is building in elements of another genre into this, and sort of things that are again different in terms of their evolution, different in terms of their makeup, their kind of outlook on the world, if you like, or on the universe, things like that. Again, with this one, you get some time jumps. You get that, I think, probably even a little bit more in Children of Ruin. You get more distinct time jumps as well. It never feels confusing, though. That's something I'll say. Certainly with the first two, it doesn't feel confusing when it jumps around. It does feel quite natural, and it's well kind of marked. It's well structured. Children of Time, the structure is a lot simpler, I think, in some respects. So it's a lot more straightforward, whereas some of the others are kind of a little bit more kind of, they move around a bit more. Some more moving pieces, I think, more than anything else. As I say, it's never confusing. It's always well explained. You've got some more kind of brain taxing stuff, I think, coming in Children of Ruin, and most definitely in Children of Memory, which I'll get to in a minute. The books do get kind of incrementally more challenging in terms of some of their more speculative ideas, some of their thought experiments, some of the sort of concepts that Tchaikovsky's like playing with, talking about. They do get a little bit more abstract as we go along, and therefore for me that's always a little bit more brain melty. There's some stuff in Children of Ruin about kind of shared consciousness, which is fascinating, but I was just a bit like, oh god, and it kind of came in quite a sort of dense chunk as well. So it was a little bit discombobulating to take in, but it was great. It did, as I say, it wasn't poorly done. It was just quite a lot, and Children of Time never felt, even though it's quite dense in some of its information, it never felt too much, or it never felt overly taxing. Whereas the other two books, I definitely had to work a lot more. And I don't mind doing that. I think Tchaikovsky's wanting you to do that. But yeah, that's just something to note. Children of Ruin, I still loved. I had a fantastic time listening to that. As I say, I absolutely loved the horror elements coming in there. I loved the octopuses. They were great, especially in terms of their communication, because they use colour on their skin. They flash colour. The communication across species is what I'll say, without spoiling it. Communication across species is a big thing in this, and kind of diplomacy. And that's really interesting as well. But yeah, really, really, really enjoyed it. Still loved it. I had a great time listening to it, but just wasn't at that level of the first one for me. Okay, Children of Memory then, my most recent read, which, as I say, I only finished a couple of nights ago. Again, same but different. We maintain some of our storyline with the spiders, with the octopuses, with the something else, and with this we get the addition of corvids, so crows, raven type birds. This one feels the most different, I think, out of the three. This one builds on, it's still very much science fiction, same as the other two, but in addition to keeping the horror element in there, it also adds in a really healthy dose of mystery into this one. So again, building on this kind of genre, slight genre mix of stuff. This one features the kind of evolved or evolving species less. This one is set more on like a terraformed planet and a colony that's been established there. There's a lot of elements of kind of sliding into a dystopia, sort of the degradation, the downfall of a society. That fear of other is really prominent in this, I have to say, and I think that was done really well. This one is most definitely the most challenging, brain wise, thought wise. There are a lot of different thought experiments going on in this. There's stuff that we're still looking at from the previous books, things like consciousness. We're looking at sentience, the idea of sentience, and what makes something a sentient being. We're looking at perception and reality. It's got quite a lot, as I say, quite a lot of very speculative stuff in it. It's a lot. There's some elements which are really conceptual that are just, again, a bit like, oh my god. This one, I think, more than any of the others, would benefit the most from a reread, for me, particularly a re-listen. I think there's probably lots of stuff that I missed in this one. But yeah, it's more based kind of around humanity, I think, in some respects, than these evolved species. And I think I missed that a little bit. Although I will say that the Corvids in this, Gothy and Ghessly, the characters, they are brilliant. They are, I think, my favourite thing about Children of Memory. They are hilarious. They're the way they speak, their language, the way they think. Is just like fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, this one, I think, out of all of them, is maybe a little overwritten, certainly in parts. And I think certainly some of the last quarter, where you're getting into some of the kind of the answers, or broadening the questions, is probably more appropriate. Some of the conceptual stuff, I think potentially it could have been pulled back a little bit, but it's a really minor thing. It didn't ruin it for me by any means. It didn't. I never felt it was boring or anything like that. It's also the most confusing of the three by far, not necessarily unintentionally. I think, I spent about 3/4 of it wondering what the hell is going on. But that's not necessarily in a bad way, because the characters in it are also spending 3/4 of it wondering what the hell is going on. And that's something I'll say about all three. You are following the story kind of at the same pace in terms of the information that you get as kind of some of the human characters or some of the main characters. So, you are discovering things as they are discovering things. And I like that, that helps me to kind of relate to and connect with the characters that we're following. And it allows for that suspense, for that mystery, for that horror, that fear of the other, all that kind of stuff when you don't know what's going on. But yeah, this one was like really like, what the hell is going on here? This jumps around a lot. It's quite hard to kind of, or I found it quite difficult at times to kind of keep with where are we, when are we, who are we, what are we, why are we? It's like, it's just all of the questions, I think, in this one, which I really appreciate now I've finished it and I've got a conclusion on it. But at the time, it was quite, I couldn't listen to this in two kind of long stints. I had to break this up a bit more, whereas the others I just kind of beasted my way through because they were brilliant. This one I had to just let some of it sit in my brain for a little bit before I continued on. I think something else I would say with Children of Memory is I think it has more potential holes that I could poke at if I wanted to. But I think that's just down to the nature of what Tchaikovsky is kind of discussing here in terms of the thought experiments. I won't say any more than that because it would be a spoiler. I think it's just the sort of stuff where there's always going to be potential for little sort of holes to be poked in plot or, you know, thought or whatever. I think it maybe just requires a little more suspension of disbelief than the other two. So that's kind of a good overview, I think, of what my feelings on each one are. But as a whole, this is a phenomenal series. I absolutely loved it. I haven't felt this way about a series of books in a long time, and this has shot to my top series, certainly top trilogy. The writing in this is absolutely superb. It's got great humour. I love Tchaikovsky's humour in it. Really, really solid character work as well. The spider characters are brilliant. Evrana Kern, the scientist that kind of you meet right at the beginning of Children of Time, she continues throughout. We get to meet her at various points throughout. She's brilliant. I love her. She's one of my new favourite characters. She is arrogant, irritable, she's not a very nice person, but she's a genius, and she has a really, really interesting character arc, I think. But yeah, all of the evolved creatures and the way that their personalities are presented, things like that, are just brilliant. The ideas in these, I love how Tchaikovsky's playing with these ideas, connecting these ideas through. So each book being feels like, you know, it is a self-contained story, but it is connected definitely to the others. And in which case I would say you kind of do need to read these in order if you're going to read them, I think. But yeah, just building on ideas constantly and asking bigger and bigger and bigger questions, I think, and you know, all of these different thought experiments going on, and it does make, as I say, it does make for quite a brain taxing experience, certainly towards the end of the series. But I really appreciated that, and I think the atmosphere that he creates, the settings, the world building, all that kind of stuff is spot on for me. I absolutely loved them all. So I'll have a quick look at my ratings then for the individual books, but I'll put them all together so you can see the differences. So Children of Time then, yeah, that one came out after I'd kind of done my individual ratings, as you can see, for character, atmosphere and setting, writing, plot, ideas and enjoyment. That's what those 6 are for. And then I add those up and divide by 6 to get that 9.17 out of 10, which then gets just rounded down to a 9 out of 10. Yeah, this is a 5-star. This is one of my favourite books this year. One of my favourite books in a long time, actually. So yeah, absolutely brilliant, that one. I thoroughly recommend just reading that one. I know a lot of people just read that and don't continue with the series, which is totally fair. You don't need to, continue. It's, as I say, they're quite self-contained in some respects. But if you kind of if you want to go on, they are absolutely worthwhile reading, the other two. But yeah, Children of Time is something special, I think. So Children of Ruin then came out at an 8.67 out of 10, so that's rounded down to an 8.5 out of 10. And then Children of Memory came out at an 8.33 out of 10, which is then rounded up to an 8.5 out of 10. So we've got a 5-star for Children of Ruin and then 2 4.5 stars for the other two. So there's not much between them really, but for sure Children of Time deserves that 5-star. Absolutely brilliant book. So yeah, as I say, I absolutely love this series. This is a 5-star series overall for me. If I look at them just as, kind of one unit, absolutely brilliant. New favorite series. So yeah, I highly recommend giving at least Children of Time a go if you haven't already, unless you're an arachnophobe, and then it might not be for you. And also, as I say, I would recommend, if you are an audiobook fan, going for the audiobooks. I think the audiobook experience was absolutely spot on. I'm hoping that Tchaikovsky might possibly revisit this series, at some point. I think Children of Memory came out in 2022, and there was, I think, an 8-year period in which the three came out. So perhaps he will. All I know is that if he does, I'll be picking up day one. Whatever, if there's another one to add in and it becomes a quadrilogy, I will absolutely read anything in this universe that he wants to put out. And I will definitely be reading more by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I already have quite a few in my library that I've picked up in sales and stuff like that. I have The Doors of Eden, which I really like the look of, which is a standalone, because he's quite prolific. There's a lot to get through of his stuff. But yeah, I've got Doors of Eden, I've got Cage of Souls, Dogs of War. I know that's part of a series, isn't it? And then also the first book in the Final Architecture series. That's a big old space opera, I think. So I'll give that a go at some point. And I might even try some of his fantasy as well. Because although I don't get on with fantasy generally, I think if anyone can suck me in to some fantasy, it might well be Mr. Tchaikovsky. Because I love his writing. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm definitely going to dive into more of his stuff for sure, and soon, because he has the potential to become a favourite writer for me, absolutely. So I think that's enough rambling from me on this series. Thank you very much for watching today, folks. Do drop your thoughts in the comments below. It's always lovely to hear from you. Do let me know if you've read the whole series and what you thought. Let me know if you've only read the first one, Children of Time, and whether I've maybe convinced you to give the others a go. And do let me know as well is if you've enjoyed these, even if you're terrified of spiders. I'd be interested to know that. I'll be back on Tuesday with a little tag video, so I do hope you will join me for that then. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.